People constantly tell me how junk food is ruining my body and how washing hands is so important. I constantly read stories of people getting diagnosed with these horrific diseases. So I thought I need to know more about diseases and what they are. And after I finished this episode, I completely changed the way I looked at diseases, my body, and my hygiene. What do you think happens when you get sick?
I think if something out of the ordinary, like a virus or something, is introduced in the body reacts in a certain way to get it out of it, and that's how you become sick. You get fever or stuff like that.
And it is basically called a disease, right? So you, if you
Right.
are sick, you have some kind of disease. So do you,
Right.
can you define what is a disease?
I think anything that harms the host, the body, is a disease. Anything that sort of disrupts the usual working of the body.
We use the word disease for something major like cancer or tuberculosis, but it turns out that very simple things that we often experience are diseases, such as a common cold.
What is a disease is sometimes, like, I can also say, is this really the right question to ask?
Okay.
Because it's more than complicated. It's a lot of different things that we call diseases. Like, in, at the end of the day, our body is basically a bag of water
Hmm.
in which a lot of biochemical reactions take place, and there's a number of things that can go wrong, and it's like a delicate balance of, like, there are a lot of systems that keep the body in buffer.
So basically, if we talk about diseases that involve a bacteria or a virus or microorganisms, we host them and then slowly we start to see the symptoms.
It's very hard for something to go wrong. Like, I mean, we see diseases all the time, but there's a lot of correcting mechanisms that keep everything in buffer. But there are lots of different levels of things. So, for example, if there is since we are born, there's a whole developmental cycle from childhood to adulthood that is mostly driven by the DNA. Well, the what the genes we have in our DNA, how they are expressed, how the different regulating factors on the genes, then the proteins that are from the genes, to this environment that is formed where different uh, proteins, different genes, different molecules, different metabolites all interact, and there are metals and uh, different molecules from the environment that we also take in that form parts of those reactions. And yeah, so there's lots of different things that can go wrong, in the sense, if you don't have a particular um, molecule that is required to
Mhm.
create reactions that are essential for a particular function in the body. That can be one way, if that is somehow limited, if it's not available anymore in the environment, or
Mhm.
you change your diet and you stop taking something that is crucial for some of the reactions to take place. That will have an effect. It can be deficiencies, like vitamin deficiencies, or that might have an effect on your body.
So, to stop things from going wrong, we have our immune system. Check out this video if you want to know more about that.
We don't live in an isolated bubble, like in some space where we live in a habitat,
Yes.
and we live in an environment, and that environment also has an effect on all these reactions and all the functions that take place, and the environment can have an impact in terms of the weather or the climate being too cold, too hot, all these kind of things. But there's also life itself. Like there's different species around us that are also trying to survive, doing the same thing that we are doing. There's viruses, bacteria, fungi, animals, plants, and all these things can have an effect. So if part of our survival is also we being part of this habitat. So it's not like just our body forming these biochemical reactions. There's lots of bacteria that live with us, on us, inside us, that are as crucial a part of this whole functioning.
We are coexisting with a lot of these disease causing agents. So, our definition of disease should not then just be limited to certain types of diseases.
Yeah, and there's also, of course, different species that we call infections, as in they are trying to survive themselves, and part of their survival is taking away nutrients from us, like
Okay.
because they want the nutrients for themselves, or it's just survival. So
So,
that can
anything
cause
that
diseases.
so
Yeah.
so any so disease might be or is a like a broad term describing anything that changes the balance of like what happens in our body, like from a common cold to something very severe. So that comes from whatever, maybe like you said, like
Yeah.
microorganisms, viruses, bacteria, whatever, they come here to survive in our bodies, and then they take something from us, and then we experience these different kind of symptoms. And
Symptoms.
yeah,
Yeah.
if we have a disease, what do you think makes us not just die off? Why humans haven't been wiped up from this world?
I think even we on our part are doing the evolution, so that's also playing a part here. But I'll have to check on a
Medicine,
better answer on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
evolution
And
of
medicine
medicine maybe.
technology, yeah, of course, science.
In some of the diseases, yes, medical science has really helped us. We are puppets of these disease causing agents, because if you all die, they die. We are the host, right?
In terms of evolution, in terms of long term, it is not the best option that we die. So
Yeah.
because then we are the
Yeah.
host, we survive, they survive. In that case, most of the diseases will cause mild symptoms, and yeah, but sometimes, because this is evolution, and sometimes species transfer, like bacterial species can transfer from one species to another. And then, like, for example, if a virus transfers from a bat to a human, the bat's body temperature is higher. So our fever no longer kills the virus or keeps it in control. So that might cause death in that case. But generally, that's evolutionarily speaking, that's not always the case. Like most of the times, uh, if we are the permanent host, it tends to be like a long-term mild symptoms. I mean, it could still feel severe for the individual, but like
Yeah.
if you're coughing for 5 years, that's very uncomfortable for
Yeah.
us. But it's in terms of like if you full range of symptoms, it's on the milder side of things. That's
So
what I mean. Like it depends on the cycle of the organism. Like sometimes, for example, with rabies, their cycle depends on going host to host, spreading as fast as possible. So in that case, the virus doesn't evolve to maintain the survival of the organism, but it infects the brain, so that basically it manipulates the organism so that it doesn't like water anymore, because if the organism drinks water, it dilutes the organism in its mouth, which is one of its main mechanism of spreading. So it manipulates the brain to not drink water and go and bite anything it sees moving. So it's to have one definition of what is a disease is very kind of difficult. But like from a perspective of philosophy, there have been many attempts. Like there's people have thought it in terms of like a biostatistical way, like what majority of people see is like the normal, and then any deviation across the spectrum can be called a disease. There's the quality of life perspective, where do you have a good quality of life, and if your quality of life is being affected, then it might be called a disease.
This is a way to label what is a disease in terms of comparing it with standard or quality of life, but that is not the case every time. Something that doesn't fall in this bracket of quality of life.
I mean, in some cases, it can be very tricky. Like when you talk about neurodevelopmental disorder, in some cases, people want to call it diversity, and in some cases that is true, where it's just a different way of. There's a diversity in how our brains have evolved, and there's a different ways of thinking, and it's not necessarily a disease. But then in some cases where if an individual cannot function in society without somebody else's help, then it becomes a very difficult case to argue that this is just diversity, and then it might be more tempting for us to classify it as a disease. But then we are classifying it as a disease from the perspective of societal
with this
resource
reference,
requirement.
Taking this quality of life, stable life as a reference.
Exactly.
Obesity is an epidemic in India. While we are the capital of TB, we are ranked third in HIV/AIDS. India's rabies cases are one of the highest in the world. We still have malaria and pneumonia, and we take mental diseases as a taboo. It's a sad reality.
For the longest time, I've also heard like the older generation, whenever they talk about health issues or like whatever, they just talk about how your food habits should be better and how you should be exercising. But now that we have also progressed, we have got to know our bodies better than what we used to. We also know that stress and all of these factors also play a huge role in it. For example, you just said this light bombarding on your eyes, or even that is playing a role, because so many of us, we have desk jobs and we are constantly sitting in front of the camera, constantly sitting in front of the laptops all the time working, and that is kind of taking a toll on us.
This changed the way I think about health and what my body goes through when I'm sick. This kind of gave me an appreciation again for my body, because now when I pick up something unhealthy to eat, I know that maybe I won't feel that, but my body is going through immense pressure and immense activities to make sure that this doesn't harm me. In India, and this is strictly my observation based on people around me, that we are a bit hesitant to have regular checkups and know what is going inside our body, which I feel is very necessary to do. So diseases are here to stay until we know everything about them and just find a cure for everything, which I don't feel is going to happen in the near future. But we think, because it's the 21st century, that medical science is progress so much that we have cure for everything, and we might just take a pill and I'll feel better. But that's not the case. So precaution is very important. So I believe prevention is still the best cure we have. food is going to matter a lot in the coming future. And I feel that emotional eating and stress eating is now becoming a big problem in India, since junk food is so easily available in urban cities and even in rural areas. So I published an episode, a conversation with Dr. Chandrasekhar Karve, where we talked about stress eating, emotional eating, what it does to your body. I think if you feel that stress eating is a serious topic, you can check that video as well. Until next time.